If you love classics like we do, then you're going to love what our friends over at Best Classics Ever are giving away this month.
Through December 30th, they're giving away Amazon Fire streaming sticks, free 30-day, 60-day, and annual subscriptions.
Plus, one grand prize winner is going to get a lifetime subscription. You can enter to win on the Best Classics Ever Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter pages, or you can enter at bestclassicsever.com.
And if you go there, be sure to check out episodes of our show, The Matinee, streaming free in their Hollywood Canteen section.
Hey, it's Andrew Morgan, host of the Nomcast, the Netflix original movie podcast. Each week, we preview and review the biggest Netflix original movies with special guests from the film industry, the music industry, comedians, and of course, our fellow critics and podcasters. The Nomcast is available on nomcastpod.com or wherever you get your podcasts, on the socials at nomcastpod, and is a part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
That's a raccoon, yo. What are you doing?
Feeding the raccoon.
It's a trash panda. When the three burglars thing happens.
Oh, and they're all singing the same line.
Yes. No, notice, Jeb, that when they put their hats on, I'm not going to be able to see facial expressions. So that's on you, man. That's on you. Okay, camera rolling.
Yeah, I get it. Can I get an interview about Betsy's wedding? No, anything but that.
Get lost.
Anything but that.
Get my hat. Hi, I'm Mike Field.
And I'm Mike Butler.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema Podcast. Each episode, we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time, or the movie simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the movie, or perhaps don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. If you enjoy our podcast, we want to hear from you. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Find us. Our podcast is available on all platforms with a backlog of 100 episodes for your listening pleasure. What's up?
Nothing. I'm going to just try to remember how to do this thing.
For those who don't know, because why would you know? Because we have a new episode every week. We have been in a 3-week hiatus because Butler decided to go down south to Florida. Did you get a COVID test, by the way? that's not funny. People are dying. That's not funny. So anyways, yeah, we haven't been recorded in a while. And so this is going to be, I don't know, this might be a bad episode. So yeah.
Putting the training wheels back on for this.
I'm sure we'll be fine. Although I was thinking, I wonder if we should just do a canned generic opening and just, we don't have to keep doing it. I know we like doing it live, but I'm wondering if we have graduated to now making that just kind of like a canned opening. No, you don't like that. I know. I'm tossing it out there. I'm tossing it out there live or whatever, recorded. I guess.
Talking about this pre-recorded. I'm calling you out, Butler. Canned responses. It is.
Well, obviously you are listening to this in December. It's the holidays are coming up. Christmas next week, I believe. I'm not sure when Hanukkah is this year. Are we in the middle of it? I don't know.
Christmas is coming. We're probably in it, close to it.
Interesting. Well, not usually. No, it's late. It is late. It starts on the 29th. Wow. Oh, November 29th. Excuse me. No, it's early. Oh, so then you already celebrated Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah, everybody. All right. So what are we doing this week, Butler?
We are doing Nobody's Fool. And you might get confused because apparently there are like 5 Nobody's Fools. We are doing specifically the 1994 Paul Newman Nobody's Fool.
There's a hard rock song from the 80s, Nobody's Fool. I don't know who sings it. Cinderella? No. Striper? No, God, no. I don't know, but there's a song, Nobody's Fool, too, yeah. But anyways, go ahead. Yes, we're doing Nobody's Fool from 94. What's it about?
A stubborn man, played by Paul Newman, past his prime, reflects on his life of strict independence and seeks more from himself after reconnecting with his son and grandson.
Sorry, my chair's creaky. See, now even the chair's not used to being sat in, although I did sit in it for 3 weeks. I don't get why. Okay, so Nobody's Fool has a runtime of 110 minutes. It's rated R, production budget of $20 million. Remember $20 million movies?
No.
It has 2 release dates, so I'll try to be quick with the releases. It has a limited release date of December 23rd, 1994. So it is clearly a Christmas film that came out in 94 for Oscar run and has a wide release date of January 13th, 1995. So, depending upon where your theater is located, Whether you're near like New York City or LA,
Right.
you may have seen it out on the 23rd. We probably had it at the theater at the 23rd. Well, you weren't there. Honestly, back then I was working at the Fourplex, so no, we did not show. Oh, and did we have this movie? Orange probably had this movie. Regardless of that, most people probably didn't see it until January. So its opening weekend, which was the 23rd limited release, it did $92,000. But its wide release weekend, it did $7 million, and worldwide and domestic were basically, if you round up, about $40 million. So it was just released in North America, distributed by Paramount Pictures and Capella Films. So like I said, on the 23rd was its limited release date. So those, get ready for these Christmas movies that came out. I'm not going to start on the 23rd. I'm going to start on the 16th, which is the week before, which is Dumb and Dumber, Speechless, Immortal Beloved, and a limited release Nell, Chickapay. But here are the rundown of the summer movies of that year. So the 21st of December was Richie Rich, which is the Macaulay Culkin film.
Yep.
Little Women and Mixed Nuts, which is with Adam Sandler and Steve Martin. The 23rd, which is probably that Friday before Christmas, or the Wednesday, it was Street Fighter, Death and the Maiden, Legends of the Fall, and then the wide release of Nell, Chickapay. And then the 25th of Christmas is The Jungle Book. This is The Jungle Book, the live action?
The live action one, yeah, with the guy from Mortal Kombat as the main guy?
I believe so.
Yeah.
A wide release of Little Women. IQ, which was the Meg Ryan is the granddaughter of Einstein or something like that. Yeah.
Sure.
You never saw that?
No, I've also never seen Mixed Nuts with Steve Martin and Adam
Really?
Sandler.
Yeah, this is when Adam Sandler was like first starting. Ready to Wear and Safe Passage. So it was already up against like it's just, and Christmas season, obviously, as we know, movies are just thrown out there.
Yeah, a ton of movies.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Street Fighter was a Christmas film.
For you, it was the most important day of your life. For me, it was Tuesday. Raul Julia, he just chews up the scenery in that movie. So awesome.
So on this movie's wide release date, which is the 13th of January, it went up against Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, the good one, not Bordello of Blood, but Demon Knight.
Bordello of Blood is
Bordello of Blood is not good.
It's stupid.
I wanted it to be good because I liked Dennis Miller back in the day. I mean, he's fine now, but it's not good. Demon Knight's good.
I got to rewatch Demon Knight. I've only seen it like once, and Bordello of Blood is on TV all the time.
That's because Angie Everhart is, scantily clad in that. But Demon Knight's good. I can't believe it. I liked it.
I like Demon Knight. I just also kind of like Bordello of Blood in some cheesy way.
It's not good, man.
It's not. Oh, it's not good. It's like an episode of Tales from the Crypt.
You also had Higher Learning, Far From Home, and then the wide release of Legends of the Fall. The week before we had House Guests. There's not much once Christmas season rolls around, you kind of lose out on
they don't want to get there.
Yeah, January is just kind of like a dump month a little bit. And then the 20th, which was the week after this wide release of Nobody's Fool, you had Murder in the First, Bad Company, and SFW. A lot of films. I apologize that took too long. If you've already moved on from our podcast, we'll see you later. This is written for the screen and directed by Robert Benton. He won an Oscar for directing for Kramer versus Kramer. He's also done Billy Bathgate and Feast of Love. He actually writes a lot of the movies that he does. He won an Oscar for screenplay for Places in the Heart and again Kramer versus Kramer. He was nominated for writing for The Late Show and Bonnie and Clyde. This is based on a novel by Richard Russo. He's also written Empire Falls, Chances Are, and Everybody's Fool. So he's got a bunch of books out there. I think this book came out the year before this movie started getting made. It was pretty quick.
Everybody's Fool. Is that a sequel?
I don't know.
Nobody's Fool?
I didn't look it up, but I know that Empire Falls, they did a movie, and I think Newman's in that too, but I'm not sure. Cinematography by John Bailey, who's done The Big Chill, My Blue Heaven, and In the Line of Fire. Composer Howard Shore. Apologize. He's won an Oscar for Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, and then Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, and then he's been nominated for Hugo. Edited by John Bloom, who won an Oscar for editing for Gandhi. He was also nominated for A Chorus Line and The French Lieutenant's Woman. Produced by Arlene Donovan and Scott Rudin. Donovan has produced basically a lot of Benton's films. Nominated for Oscar for, I guess, Best Picture because Places in the Heart was nominated. And then Nadine, Still of the Night. And then Scott Rudin has won an Oscar for producing No Country for Old Men. And he's also produced Social Network, amongst other things. Butler has already told you that Paul Newman is in this movie. He is playing Sully. I hope everyone knows who Paul Newman is. If you do not, he was in Road to Perdition, which is a movie we did. He's also in The Sting, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He won an Oscar for the movie. I'm pointing at Butler to see if he gets it. It was a sequel to a movie he was in back in the 60s.
No. The Big Chill.
Nope. The Color of Money.
Color of
The
Money.
Color of Money. Whew, Jessica Tandy in her final role, because she passes away before this movie was released, plays Miss Burl. She won an Oscar for Driving Miss Daisy. She was nominated for Fried Green Tomatoes. She's also in Cocoon and Batteries Not Included for those out there. Bruce Willis is acting in this movie. He plays Carl Roebuck. He's from Die Hard, Sixth Sense, and this is my other credits: Die Hard, The Sixth Sense, and various terrible VOD films.
Oh, he has a new one out now, another sci-fi one. I watched the trailer for.
Oh, Bruce. Melanie Griffith as Toby Roebuck, Carl's wife. She was nominated for an Oscar for Working Girl. She's also in Milk Money and Body Double. Dylan Walsh as Peter. He's in Congo. He teaches his ape how to sign. Apple, green drink. He's also in the TV show Nip Tuck, and he was in the remake of The Stepfather, where he plays the stepfather. Pruitt Taylor Vince as Rub Squeers, or they just call him Rub. I don't know why I have his last name here. He was in a movie we did a while back, Constantine. He's also in Identity and Young Mississippi Burning. He's young in that one. Gene Sachs as Worf, who's the lawyer of Sully's lawyer. He's in The Odd Couple, IQ, and he directed Brighton Beach Memoirs, amongst other films that he has directed. Joseph Summer as Clive Peoples Jr. He is Jessica Tandy's Miss Burl's character's son. He's in Strange Days, the movie we did, Butler likes. Witness, which is awesome, which I think we're doing this season, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And Dirty Harry. Margot Martindale as Birdie. She's in Table 19, the TV show The Americans. She's also in the movie The Kitchen. I think she was on a season of Justified. And then finally, a young Philip Seymour Hoffman, who basically looks like the character from what's the movie with Scent of a Woman, like that scene where we're going to talk about. It reminded me of Scent of a Woman. He played Officer Raymer. Obviously, Philip Seymour Hoffman passed away recently, a couple years ago. He's in Boogie Nights, and he's in The Master, which I recommend. It's very good. Okay. I blew through those because I got some feedback that we take too long, Butler. And I know I messaged you, and then I backed off because I was like, maybe we shouldn't do this. And I asked a couple of people about all the facts that we do, and people were complaining, but I think I was just being reactionary. I do like
people
doing
complaining about doing the fact.
Here's my thing.
That's more of a cast. That's more of a cashy.
Here's the thing. A lot of people that listen to our podcast probably know a lot about movies already. And I like to think that we do this podcast, not just for those people, because we do get into the film, but for people that are more of a casual film goer. I don't, and people that don't know about some of the people in the movie. So that's why I do a lot of those facts. So it's not just for the moviegoer, the really hardcore aficionados. I know maybe that bores you. I apologize, but it's really for people that maybe don't know as much, because nobody knows everything about films. There's a lot of people out there just, hey, I want to watch this movie. Let's go.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why we do them. Now, real quick, this movie was shot November of 93 to March of 94 in one of the worst winters in New York State history, which is because it snows a lot in the movie, as you can tell. It's also been nominated for 2 Academy Awards: Best Actor for Paul Newman, and then Best Adapted Screenplay for Robert Benton. Now, it didn't win. I'm pretty sure you know who won the 95 Oscars for 94 season. Do you know?
Was that Gump?
Yeah. No. Yes, it is Gump.
Okay.
Because it's Paul Newman was nominated for Nobody's Fool, John Travolta for Pulp Fiction, Tom Hanks for Forrest Gump, which he won, Morgan Freeman for The Shawshank Redemption, and Nigel Hawthorne for The Madness of King George. That's a strong category that year.
You ain't beating Gump.
Problem is that when he won Philadelphia, because this is when he won two in a row.
Mm-hmm. And
when he won for Philadelphia, I think that was more about the role. It was more about what the movie was. Why he won. And he deserves for Gump, but he gets nominated the next year for Apollo 13. And I thought he should have won for Apollo 13 as well, because he was really good in that. But what are you going to do? You're not going to give him 3 in a row, I guess.
They'd give Meryl Streep 3 in a row.
Did she win 3 in a row?
I don't know. She's won like 18. She has won a lot.
It's just an honor to be nominated. Okay, Butler has never seen this film. I have seen this film. It had been a while since I saw this film.
Never even heard of this film.
Wow. So I'm curious what your first reactions are. I can give you my second reactions, but what did you think of the film? Well, overall, I guess, or what's the first thing? Whatever, however you want to start.
It's okay. I think the message at the end is much better than the film at its beginning. I think it begins very rote, very kind of generic, but toward the latter half really kind of becomes, I still wouldn't say like wholly original, but a little more interesting and has a little bit more depth to its story, and especially in concerns with Sully's character. He's just a grumpy old man in any grumpy old man role that I've ever seen an aging actor play in any movie. But it becomes something more toward the end of it once you learn a little bit more about him, once his son becomes more in the picture. I started to get more interested in the movie. It's got a little bit more depth to it, and you give some of the other side characters more time to shine than just following around Sully being this angry guy. But I do really enjoy the relationships he has with everyone. I thought that was interesting because even his like worst relationships with like Roebuck and stuff like that are unique to film. You know, they're enemies. They hate each other, but they always hang out. They always joke around. They have some kind of odd respect for each other that I found really interesting and engaging. And also Paul Newman kind of elevates the role a little bit. So although it's a little generic, he's still Paul Newman.
Well, yeah, this movie, I don't know if this is the first film that we've done, but it might be more. We're probably talking single digits, but this film is not a plot driven film. It's a character driven movie. It's about Sully. So right off the bat, you have to, not you, but you have to understand that you're not getting, while you may get semblances of a 3-act structure and you may get, the climax and and then kind of like the journey of the hero. It's more about Sully. It's more about this character's growth in terms of how you start off in the beginning when you meet him. I know you call him grumpy, but he's somebody who has a lot of regret and a lot of anger for a lot of various things in his life, which we'll talk about, decisions that he has made and stuff that has happened to him that has turned him into somebody who really doesn't think that he deserves a happy ending or doesn't deserves to be content. Right. And then as the movie goes along, you towards the end, what you're talking about, the ending, you do kind of get that. But it's also, when you talk about Roebuck or Carl's character, Bruce Willis's character, I don't think that they don't get along. They do and they don't. Right. It's about small town living. It's just about these group of people. They live in a town. It's called North Bath, New York, but it's a made up town. It's based on Ballston Spa, New York, which is in Saratoga County. Excuse me. It's where the writer of the book, Russo, grew up. But Ballston Spa is overshadowed by Saratoga Springs, maybe. Yeah. It's overshadowed by a bigger town. Right. So it's kind of just a small town, close-knit group of people that just kind of exist. And I think North Bath is supposed to be that same thing, that type of town where it's just these people, they don't all get along. They're all just, not that they're trapped there, but they're all living a small town life. And even though they disagree, or the stealing of the snowblowers that they do in this thing, like they're still family almost. Right. You know what I mean? Because small town living is I think there's a Werf, the lawyer say does he the one that say he likes small town life, or he makes a comment about it? The
pharmacist guy says it.
Oh, right.
What's his name? Jocko.
Yeah.
Jocko says, "Oh man, we'll love small town. What other small town would let a guy out of prison just to be a pallbearer at a funeral?"
Yeah, exactly. So that's I think that's also what you have going on here is just, it's a snapshot of life in a small town in upstate New York during a winter. And right off the bat, I appreciate that because it's not a lot of stuff you see. We don't see this a lot of times, although I am reminded of Beautiful Girls.
I was going to say it's a lot of Beautiful Girls is that kind of small town. It's the writer's town he grew up in. Yes. It's snowy. Yeah. Yeah.
And beautiful. Sure. Yeah. We did Beautiful Girls,
which is similar because that's not a real normal 3-act structure either. It's about the growth of these characters.
That's more of like it's almost, I don't want to say it's a coming of age story, but it's almost like a coming of older age story. Yeah. It's like that. So, and we did Beautiful Girls last year. No, last season before. We did it a couple.
Last year, ago. But 2 or 3 seasons ago. Yeah.
But I think there's a lot more. Beautiful Girls has a lot of stuff it's a lot of great lines that are funny. It's mined for laughs in terms of just the existence of the characters.
It's definitely like a dramedy or something. Right. Yeah.
This is more of there's just comedy elements in this, but there's more drama in this film. But I just think there's a lot more earnestness in this film. This is the second or third time I've seen this. I really like, obviously, this is like a no-brainer, but I really like Paul Newman in this film.
What? You like Paul Newman in this?
He is awesome in this movie.
You're gonna say Paul Newman, some kind of like good actor?
He is. Because he makes it so easy. So I'm going to read a quote from Roger Ebert when he reviewed the film. This is a straight quote. And when I read it, and the reason why I copied it down, because I was like, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I've been watching Paul Newman in movies all my life. He is so much a part of the landscape of modern American film that sometimes he is almost invisible. He does what he does with simplicity, grace and the minimum of fuss. And so I wonder if people even realize what a fine actor he is. And I think about, and I think about the scene in the car when he's telling his son about his father. Right. He's telling he's telling his son about how his father would come home. He was a mean drunk. He would just talk about how he in their front of his old childhood home. And he's telling the story in such a matter of fact way, but there is so much emotion and there's so much pain behind the way he's saying it that you can see it, and he's not showing it because he doesn't want to show his son, but he's just kind of like, it is what it is kind of thing. And
it's real.
Right. There's so many layers going on in that moment. And the way Newman is doing it, it's like he's not acting. Do you know what I mean?
By not looking for the Oscar, he's earning the Oscar.
Well,
because you could easily go farther and, oh man, now Paul Newman's having a breakdown. This guy who was so hardened before is like, and then my father, and like you could really mind that.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd be like, all right, that's some good emotion, I guess, give him the Oscar. But he holds it back like his character should.
Yeah.
And just matter of factly kind of tells it with that emotion behind it.
Right. And I think when you watch it, I think people may, if they're not invested into it, I think they're going to miss it in terms of what he's doing. But what he's doing on screen is ridiculously good. And that's one of the reasons why when I first saw this film back in the day, I really liked it. And I didn't understand why I really liked it. I just knew that he was really good, and it was, Bruce Willis being in this film was a surprise. And I was like, I liked him in this movie.
Oh, it's great. Him playing a very different character. This is in the middle of him doing the Die Hards.
Yes.
This is big time Bruce Willis, and he's playing a smaller role, and he's such a dick. And it's just like, he's really good. And I love the scene when Carl makes Sully take him into the Victorian home, his old childhood home. And Sully starts having his little breakdown, and Carl keeps talking. And even Carl can tell, even though he's also busting Sully's balls, like, oh man, this is like a Sully I've never seen.
Yeah.
But it's his breakdown is so muted. It's very much just, he's in his head. You can tell all these scenes are playing in Paul Newman's mind, but we don't get to see any of that.
Yeah. And to Willis, so this is 94. When did Die Hard with a Vengeance come out? This is 95, right?
95, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so he's commanding about 15 million a movie right now. But the note that I have is that he took a pay cut to appear in this film. He took scale $1,400 a week to be in this movie.
I figured he must have, because he probably did it because Paul Newman's in it.
Oh, well,
he had a movie with Paul Newman.
They didn't put him in the credits. They didn't put him in the opening credits because he was an action star, so he's kind of uncredited when it first came out, and they didn't want people to turn people off. They just what the expectation of the film was.
I can see that,
but I mean, I don't think anybody doubt Willis can act. Nobody doubts that, because I've seen him in other stuff. It's just now he just doesn't. It's more about let's make my money.
He doesn't care,
and that's fine, but. He was good in this movie. He was a great foil to Newman in terms of giving him shit all the time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the whole idea about them stealing the snowblower, because the reason why Newman he steals Carl's snowblower, Sully, because Sully keeps suing Carl because Sully was working off the books and he fell
off a scaffold,
right?
Messed his knee up.
Cause he's suing Carl for money that he owes him. But Carl's like, you won't work unless it's off the books. So you can't turn around and try to sue me when you're working off the books, stuff like that. So
and then he keeps taking jobs off the book even after that.
Right.
What job you got?
Yeah. So he owes him money. So he's stealing a snowblower because, he owes him money, but they keep stealing the snowblower back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is good, which is funny. It's nice little moments, nice little tit for tat between them. But then they're playing cards all the time in the back room of the Iron Horse bar.
I love the scene when Hattie has passed away and they're carrying the casket, and the Peter's stepfather, who they have given the snowblower to hide in the garage, but according to Peter's stepfather, it was because they did a nice thing. They're walking away and goes, the snowblower that I was keeping in my garage, it just disappeared. And you can hear Carl laughing as they're going toward the thing. I was like, that's a good one.
Well, he says, you can hear it because Sully says to him, don't worry, I know where it is.
I know
and like
it
you
is.
hear Carl's like, not a chance. But that, yeah. So like in the Hattie character that Butler's talking about is the mother of the woman that owns the diner, and she has dementia, and she always gets out and gets loose. And so there's a scene where,
Sully's got to go.
Sully lives with a former teacher. Miss Burrow is a teacher.
Jessica Tandy's character.
Tandy, and she has she basically has a boarding house, because the whole reason why what's his face goes over there to stay over when Carl gets kicked out of his house, when his wife kicks him out of the house, we'll get to all that. He goes to stay at the boarding house, and that's why. And then you see Sully seeing him, and Sully puts the blanket on him because he's sleeping on the couch and whatnot. But anyways, so Sully stays at the boarding house, and Burl sees Hattie walking down the street. So Sully runs out and grabs her, brings her back, and then he starts working at the diner.
He works at the diner. Yeah,
it's just it's small town living,
Well, you also get the feel like Sully does so many odd jobs for so many people that he just knows everybody in the town and everybody respects him. And you start to learn over the course of the movie the whole movie is about Sully's independence and that Sully doesn't have a care in the world. But the truth is that Sully takes care of the town. Mm-hmm. He's like the unsung hero of the town.
Well, he's the father of the town because he wasn't a father to his son.
Right. Yeah. So you find out like when he's going off to jail after he punches out Philip Seymour Hoffman, Officer Raymer, he tells Peter, Peter walks him to the police station, make sure you go in, check on Miss Burrell, make sure, you go. Don't have Carl not give you any crap. Make sure you go to the diner. Make sure that all this happens. He goes, it's not easy being you, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
He goes, well, I messed up a bunch at first when I was young too, but I learned.
Yeah. So you find out in the beginning of the story that Sully walked out on his family, left his son, left his wife, and left his son because he was no good. He said he wouldn't, it would be better if he wasn't there.
Right.
And his son Peter, Dylan Walsh's character, the wife still lives in town or lives out. I guess she lives in town.
I think she lives in town. Yeah.
But they don't live in the same circles. Sully and his ex-wife. Peter's coming back for Thanksgiving with his wife and his two kids, Whacker and
Will and Whacker.
Yeah. His son's name's Whacker, and it's because he hits people all the time. And but Peter, the son's character, is having problems with his wife, but I don't know what the inciting incident would have been. Just the fact that he sees him, but then Sully, sees his grandson. His grandson hides in the truck because he invites him over for Thanksgiving. Yep. And there's a problem, and he comes back, and he just starts kind of getting into Peter's life a little bit. And I actually liked, because I was waiting for like the moment where Peter would just let him have it about how he left. And
that's what I love. Yeah. Peter regrets that he never had a relationship with his father, but he doesn't have that moment where he hates us. He has already reached the point where he kind of understands his father.
Right.
Like, I think he regrets and he asks why you left, but he kind of understands why he left his family, why he ran away. Because I feel like Peter respects and admires Sully's quote unquote independence.
Well, I think Peter wants to know his dad.
Yeah, but it's very different from most movies that would have this.
Peter wants to know his father. He wants to know Sully. I think he's already been raised because he calls his stepfather Pops.
Yeah.
So he's already been raised by, and they're all friends. It's just, it is
like that. Pop also likes Sully.
Yes.
It's only the wife that doesn't really like him.
Right. You get the idea that we're missing some stuff with the mother, with Sully's ex-wife, because you can tell like she tries to be like put on airs and like
right. Yeah.
You kind of, but I think you were missing a little bit there. It's probably more in the book. I think that Peter says, I've already, you were never there. I already know that, I've already.
When Sully talks about his past as well, when he talks about how his father used to beat his mother all the time, and that's why he left, because no good.
He didn't want to be that.
I swore I'd always fucking hate him for the rest of my life, for doing what he did. And then he's like, just like you will come to one day. And Peter goes, I already did. I already said that. Because you already left me.
Yeah. What I think almost like Sully being a father to Peter at one point in this movie is when Peter's basically almost giving up on his marriage. He's, they can't, he lost his job because they were laying people off. He was a professor. And you find out that he put himself through college by being a handyman. So he's just like Sully a little bit, knowing how to fix things. And he's almost resigning himself to the fact like, oh, I got an apartment, I got a place. It's really weird how they're just like, they're going to split up and Whacker's going to go with mom.
I thought that was splitting up the kids was really weird.
That was weird. And how it was so matter of fact. And he's almost resigned to the fact that, yep, I think we're done. And Sully tells him, call your wife. And he's like, because it was New Year's Eve.
Right.
And he's like, call your wife. And he's just like, well, Daddy goes like, call him. Don't be stupid. Call. And so I think that's the first time that Sully's like, being that father. Kind of thing, being like, you're not going to be like me. Be like Pop. Be like, be
a decent person.
Right. Yeah. So you get the idea that he helps him get his, just start to get his marriage back together.
Right.
Which I thought was a really nice moment. It's almost like Sully becomes for Peter what he has already become for the entire town and what he does for everybody else in town.
Right.
And it was almost like foreign for him to do it for somebody who was related to him. Maybe like we talked about, like him now is to make up for what he did, that one decision that he made when he left. And now that you've come full circle and he can actually do everything that he's been doing that he never did for his son, but he can actually do it for his son, which was nice, which is maybe when Sully's luck turns around, kind of quote unquote luck turns around.
Yeah. Cause then he finds out, he bet on his son bet on the races. He always bet on.
Right. The trifecta. Yeah.
Although he doesn't win a lot of money. I thought it was like supposed to be life-changing money. It was only $5,800.
Well, it might be less life-changing money for.
That's not a lot.
For a small town. What does he need? He doesn't need a lot.
That's true.
So now we should talk about Toby. So he's talking about everything else but the Melanie Griffith character.
She's there.
Yeah.
They flirt. We see boob.
We see boob. And real nice.
She's his temptation to an even easier way of living. She's the temptation to being what everyone imagines Sully to be. This carefree attitude, like going away together to Margaritaville kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Sully, it seems as you're watching the movie, at least at first, that's the life he wants. That's the life he's been striving for. This carefree, taking job by job, living every day as it comes kind of attitude. She's that temptation that he has to actually in the end avoid almost, or learn that that's not what he wants.
Well, it's not what he wants, but I think he knows that that's what she needs, because Toby is Carl's wife, and throughout the movie, Carl is cheating on his wife with the secretary, and it's like the worst kept secret.
Yep.
Everybody knows about it, and for some reason they're playing at the end of the movie, they're playing poker, and they're both naked. Carl and the secretary. I don't know why.
It's a different lady though. It's not the same lady.
No, that's the same woman.
It's not the same woman.
That's the same woman.
You sure that's Rosie or whatever?
I'm pretty sure that's Rosie.
I don't think. Oh, whatever.
So, but basically,
he's naked with a lady in it again.
I'm pretty sure it's Rosie. Anyways, and Toby already knows. Toby's already there because she knows that that's where he is. She's got the 2 tickets to Hawaii, and she wants Sully to take him. I think that's almost like Sully is part of that. But I think it's also that he knows that Toby needs to go. Like Toby needs to just.
Oh, Toby definitely needs to go. Yeah, that's part of her arc.
And the marriage, because it's not good. And Toby's doesn't need Carl. That kind of thing.
Carl's never going to change.
No, right. Correct. I actually like the scene when she flashes him, because
that's a great reaction that he has.
Exactly, because he's basically like, hey, come on. He's flirting with her a lot, and he's being coy, and he's being kind of like charming, an older man charm.
Yeah.
And then she flashes him, and it's almost like he can't process it, because he's just like,
she called me out on it.
Yeah, exactly.
The other secretary, she wore a see-through blouse, so and then she goes, and flashes, and he just goes,
exactly. He just can't. He doesn't know how to respond to it. And again, that's the beauty of Paul Newman, because it's just like, can anyone else do that without making it comical? Like it's comical, but it's not. He's not trying to be funny.
No, it's very real in that he just doesn't know.
Right.
It's funny that his game has been upended.
Yes.
He's just like
because he doesn't know what to say.
His only response is okay.
Yeah.
I was that came out of nowhere. I was like, oh. I do also like Carl is kind of maybe in like a sleazier way, a little bit like Sully, and Sully keeps trying to tell Carl, you're gonna end up like me if you keep going down this path, be with Toby. Admit you were wrong, do all this stuff. He's almost like the opposite of Peter. He's another person who's kind of going off this journey that Sully has regretted, this life But unlike Peter, Carl loses it. Carl doesn't get it. Carl doesn't learn or anything like that.
Well, Carl, because he's a self-made man. He runs Tip Top Construction. He basically is the construction guy
of the town.
Although the whole subplot of what was the character's
Clive
name?
Jr.?
Yeah, Clive Jr., which was, he's a banker. They call Sully calls him the bank. He has a subplot where they're bringing, it's like a great adventure type place coming in.
Yeah.
And that he's got the bank to invest money, and he's got a lot of people riled up for it. He's been doing
1,000 acres of land or something like that.
Right. The bank bought.
Yeah.
Ready to go. They're basically, it's going to make the town a lot of money. Tourism, all that stuff. And the place pulls for a different location. He's ruined. He leaves the town, and like you hear later on, what's his face? Carl talks about how he's just lost out on all this property that he had bought.
Right. Yep.
Because he was going to renovate everything. He was going to, and all this money now, and he's in trouble. Not in trouble. Like he's going to, lose the company, but
a lot of people, he's like a lot
he's
of people
taking a loss.
Too, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And of course, Clive Jr. has left his mother, Miss Burl, alone now.
Mm-hmm.
So now Sully has to take care of her.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there's more to that in the book, but the theme park angle of it, other than having Clive disappear, didn't really, it was almost just there to have Clive disappear. It didn't really seem to affect the town that much, other than that offhand remark from Carl and from Clive, even on the phone to the other guys. Hey, this is going to ruin the town, but you never really see it.
Mm-hmm.
You never really see that effect it has on anything.
Well, it
just forces Sully's hand at having to take care of Miss Burl.
I think there's a lot of subplots and a lot of stories that didn't make it from the book to the movie. I think there's, like, we haven't even talked about his best friend Rub. We even talked, like, there's a whole thing in there about how he's jealous of his son. His son comes back and he's jealous that his son's replacing Rub's position in Sully's life, and Sully tells him, he's my son, but you're my best friend.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And so there's the whole stuff with Clive Jr. He only gets maybe 3 scenes. One of them is when he takes his mother Thanksgiving, and you could tell she doesn't like his BS.
Right. Yep.
And then he complains. There are 2 scenes where he's complaining about Sully being in the house, and he
if
wants
you don't
him
let
out.
him leave, I'll make him leave.
Right.
You can't. It's your mom's house, dude.
Yeah.
I never got that. It's like, you got nothing you can do.
And then you get the idea that, if Miss Burl has a stroke in the movie, she doesn't want Sully to tell her son because she knows her son will use it as an excuse to put her in a home. So there's already a distrust there. So I think there's a lot of stuff going on in the book that we just don't get. And I almost, you're not going to want a 4-hour movie.
No, but there's a lot of characters that kind of get,
there's,
I'm going to say a disservice, but they don't get expanded as much as they should.
Right. There's even Philip Seymour Hoffman's the officer Raymer's character. Like he gets out of the car. He's like so tough with him. I'm going to impound your car. And nobody takes him seriously. And then he's driving on the sidewalk and he sees, and he's just like, turns the light, and he like fires a shot. And like, I love that fact that he fires a gun and you can see the look on the face, like, oh my God, why did I fire that gun? And like all that stuff. Like,
did he just shoot at us? It appears he did.
Yeah. I love when they're in front of the judge and he tells him, he's like, did you fire your weapon off? And he's just like,
it was a warning shot, sir.
Yeah.
Again, less is more.
Yeah. A warning shot to the old lady in the apartment.
Yeah. Sitting in her.
Yeah. And then he's like, and Philip Seymour Raymer's like, we're in America. And his boss is like, will you just shut the fuck up?
And he leaves.
Charges out.
So when someone throws a punch at you, what do you do?
Yeah.
Duck, sir? Or maybe duck next time.
So there's a lot of stuff that there's just a lot of characters in this movie that, we can't focus on, but they're all, I think, interesting enough where I would love to know more. Maybe I should just go read the book, and that probably would happen, but you know what I mean? But I don't think I really didn't have a problem with anything in this film. I know you talked about, you started off with a couple of things. We can go back to that. Yeah. I liked the atmosphere. I liked the setting. I liked the characters. I liked everybody in the movie. I didn't have a problem with it. I really didn't have a problem with anything. Once I understood that it was a character piece, I don't, I think there's a switch in my brain that's like, okay, stop, just relax and take it all in. So I'm curious, like, if something else really popped out at you that you kind of turned you off or didn't like, or maybe you can go back to your original point.
I think most of the things I didn't like were kind of the beginning when you're the way it's presented at the very beginning, which I get you kind of need at the end to kind of show, no, you were wrong. The Sully you're presented at the beginning is actually kind of the rest of the town's view of Sully. And then you slowly realize, no, he's the town's father.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it kind of begins and you're just kind of like, it's kind of very, like I said, very rote, very normal, very generic, that kind of curmudgeon, grumpy old men. A lot of the scenes are just kind of like straight out of grumpy old men. The hitting on the younger lady with Toby, him being just grouchy all the time, him trying to scam people out of money. I was like, I've seen this with Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon, but as the movie goes, it becomes something different. And my first, like when I started to like it, my very first note was that they all have a very complex, unique relationship. And that's what makes it different from that kind of a movie.
I mean, Aunt Margaret is more age appropriate for grumpy old men. Yeah, she
definitely is a little bit more age appropriate. Yeah, it's not quite as different.
I mean, there's nothing
as Toby.
like I never thought even that Toby was any
Toby
kind of
was never
attainable for him.
Sully,
Yes,
yeah,
no,
even
absolutely.
when she brings the tickets.
Yeah,
it's not. That's not really.
she's basically saying I'm definitely out of this marriage, and you know, absolutely.
And then Carl doesn't fight for her. You got something to say, Carl?
Yeah,
And he kind of wants to, and then he goes, no.
because he knows he screwed up. I mean, he's sitting there naked with next to. I still think it's Rosie.
I think it's a different girl, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's the point is he's not going to change.
Yeah,
and so she's got to get out of there, even if she is pregnant with his kid. I don't know how she's going to afford Hawaii, but
well, that's true. I'm wondering like why have that just to get them back together. In terms of why is she pregnant and all that stuff, and maybe they will get back together. I don't know. Who knows? Like that's the other thing. Like did this movie leave you wanting to see more of what goes on in this town?
Again, like we said with the other characters, I don't know if it left me wanting more because like you kind of get the idea that Sully now has a good relationship with the people he was supposed to be around. He's kind of understood his role in life. He's become a father to Peter again. He's fixed Peter's marriage a little bit. So I don't think I needed more after the fact, but I think I just need more with some of the characters. I don't think a lot of the characters get the closure that maybe they deserve. Like Catherine Dent's on screen for 2 seconds as his wife, Peter's wife. We talked about Peter's mom is only on screen for a scene as well. And Raymer, you don't get his relationship with Sully is just kind of like, oh, he's the cop that Sully always messes with. He's the Dukes of Hazzard sheriff or something, basically.
Boss Hog?
Basically.
Oh, not Boss Hog.
You, Sully! It's just kind of like, okay. But other than that, I think that the movie does a very good job with Sully, which is the point of the movie. So I guess I don't want more after the fact, but I wanted more within the movie. I mean, the movie is only, what, an hour 50?
It's under 2 hours, yep.
So, I mean, I could have gone another... a movie like this, you could go another 20, 25 minutes. Go to 2:15.
Yeah. See, I would have been. I'm not looking for a sequel, but I am.
Everybody's fool.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I am interested in just kind of knowing, what happens next. Let's put it that way. Like these characters were intriguing enough where I would stay with them a little bit longer. But again, I'm not looking for a sequel because honestly, if you're doing a sequel, it's not going to really focus around Sully because you've already kind of given him his character arc.
Sully would either have to not be in it at all or just kind of a very, very background character.
Well,
cameo.
I would imagine that, yeah, he's visiting his grandkids more. He's involved a little bit more with his son.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like doing things together and maybe he's just, I don't know. Will he ever fix his knee? Who knows? I mean, you're almost like you almost want to focus on either Carl because I don't think his arc is finished.
Carl would be the character that would go through the most change.
That's probably, I think so. I think
Carl or Raymer.
Raymer probably not. Raymer could be a subplot, but I think Carl is probably your next lead in that movie or in the next story for this. But I hear you.
Bruce Willis is about Paul Newman's age.
Oh no, I meant like back then, not now. Bruce Willis is not doing this movie. If he only if he works one day a week.
Yeah, prove that you can act again. Bruce, come on.
He's never gonna.
But also, the rest of this cast is dead almost. So,
jeez,
there's very few people you could still cast.
The rest of this cast is dead.
It's true. It's another one of those.
Not really. Really? Well, I know obviously
Newman, Tandy, Sachs. Summer's still alive. Philip Boscow, Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, that's quite a bit of the cast. Alice Drummond is actually still alive.
Yeah, but she died in the movie.
She did. She's actually younger than Paul Newman when she's playing that older lady.
Yeah. Yeah, Paul Newman, they say he's 60 in this film.
He's 68 when he's filming it, though.
Was he 68?
Yeah, I did the math.
God bless
him. Because
him.
when they said he's 60, I'm like, he does not look 60 there. He looks older than 60. And it was 68. And I go, okay, that's why.
Yeah. God bless him. All right. So I guess, I mean, maybe I should answer why it's forgotten.
Why do you think it's forgotten, Field?
Because I like in whose circles, like it's.
Explain to me why I never heard of it.
Because the drama, because you don't seek out films like this. You seek out.
I'd have to seek out a film like this. So I'd have to seek it out.
I'm sorry,
how would I know about it?
Because I saw this. Listen, so I first started working in the theater in '93, summer of '93. And at that point, probably after, I would watch anything that came out. I would watch any movie. When I started watching films, I watched films. Oh, I like that, actor, or I like that movie. But then I started following directors. I started following writers, and this is probably before that a little bit. But I just would watch anything. I like movies that are set in small towns. I just like that kind of microcosm of the world. It's a different type of world. It's a different type of relationships between people, and just kind of it's. For lack of a better term, it's real people, dealing with paying their bills, raising their kids, the stuff like that.
Sure.
I've always liked Paul Newman, so that's probably why I watched the movie. I think it's a movie that it's a drama. It's not it's got a nice release date around the Christmas time. It's not a summer film. It's not a big film.
I think its release date was perfect.
Right. I think this is a film that is probably for a more mature audience. An older audience might appreciate it a little bit more. I think even now, I think I may appreciate this film 20 years from now a little bit better than I do now. And I appreciate it more now than I did when I watched it 20 years ago. So in the next 20 years, I'll let you know how it is. But
thanks,
it's just a film that probably it's not of the time. Like, it's not a 90s film. I think it's a timeless film. I think it's a film that I'd like to see more people watch. I'd like to see more people, like a TCM movie, or I'd like to see this on the Criterion Channel or something like that. I just think it's a strong film. I think it's a well-told story that does what it needs to do. It's a character piece. I just think a character-driven story like this type of movie is not a movie that, unless it gets awards, unless it gets a lot of acclaim, like really, like it makes somebody a star out of the film. You know what I mean? Like, unless that happens, these type of films kind of just, not they fade away, but they just kind of like go off to the side, and somebody will grab it. What about this film? Oh, that's a good movie. But like, we're getting to the point where like a lot of people have not seen Paul Newman in films, obviously, because he passed away. But like, the more we go on here, 2030, 2040, 2050, this type of film, you're really going to have to be a film buff or somebody who is into just these type of films to really discover it. So I think that's why I think this is one of the films that's almost perfect for this podcast, because it's a really good film that people probably didn't catch when they were younger, but I think if they watch now, I think they probably would be into it a little bit more. But it is what it is. That's what happens. It's there's no one to blame. There's no one to blame but you, Butler.
No one to blame but me for no reason.
But at least you watched it. That's good.
No, it's good. It's a great film.
Would you recommend it?
Yeah. I think you're right that it's timeless. I don't think there's really any kind of, other than, Peter uses a payphone, which it's like, what are those?
What are those things?
But other than that, I think that it actually, it works as a timeless film. The story, the characters, the odd jobs that he does, there's nothing in it that is inherently 90s. It's not filmed in a way that's inherently 90s.
But see, like, to your point, like, I know that there's small towns in the United States that are still like this. There's still a handyman that works everywhere.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure there's a dive bar. I'm sure there's a dive bar that still has a payphone in it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's never going to go away.
Sure. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. The payphone might not work, but it'll always be there.
Well, I think that the small town life, like that kind of life, is never going to go away, because number one, that's just what people know and people like. And number two, I think a lot of people seek that out, because it's just so much of everything everywhere that you need a place where it's just kind of like, can we just slow things
some
down?
People love that small town life. Absolutely.
Right.
And I think you're right in the timelessness. I also think you're right that unfortunately, Paul Newman passed away a little while ago now, and a lot of the cast is older. And like you said, as you go further in time, the prestige films by these actors, where these actors are the selling point, causes them to kind of fall by the wayside.
Right.
And that's like, I agree that that's unfortunate, but that is kind of the way of the world.
Yeah.
The only films that kind of survive
that's what
forever are the ones
happens.
that are the big, not even just the prestige film, it's the prestige films, the big action films, but the films that their stories make an impact, the
Mhm.
films where the characters make an impact are so, I think, inherently tied to the actors, that when the actors unfortunately start to go backwards in time and you kind of lose them, you lose those films.
Yeah.
But that's why we're here, like you said.
Well, also, Robert Benton is he won an Oscar for Kramer vs. Kramer, and that's a really, it's a sad film, but it's a really good film.
That's a film school movie. This
Yeah.
is not really a film.
But Robert Benton is somebody who's this is why I watch like the Criterion Channel, like that's why I watch, or go to TCM. I try to find an older film because it's like, I want to watch the stuff that was before the stuff we're watching now. Do you know what I mean?
Stuff that inspired it.
Yeah, exactly. There's like how they talk about like, no story, all the stories have been told, like that kind of idea that
they're just kind of different versions.
yes.
Of all the same story.
Well, I want to see the earlier ones.
Yeah.
But that's me. And that's not for everyone. It may not be for you. And it may not be for you who's listening to this podcast right now. Mike, about this podcast, where can they find us?
You can find us on ForgottenEntertainment.com or anywhere on social medias at Forgotten Cinema or Forgotten Cinema Pod, depending on where you are. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play. YouTube is a big podcast place, apparently, I've been told. So go check us out there. We're everywhere. Give us a rating, a subscription, a comment. Whatever you do, it always helps the metrics, I guess, and helps us get us
All
around
right.
and helps us grow. So go ahead and do that. And just go to the Forgotten Cinema. It's called Forgotten Cinema Presents the Lobby. You renamed it or something like that.
It's just, it's Forgotten Cinema's lobby.
So if you want to see Nobody's Fools or you want to talk about it, or movies like Nobody's Fool that you think also fell by the wayside, talk to us about it there. We'd love to hear your suggestions, your comments, your opinions on the film. Let us know, unless you want to talk crap about Paul Newman. And then
Whoa.
gonna
Who's
catch
talking
these
crap about
hands.
Paul Newman?
Nobody better.
There'll be some words. And join us. We're actually next week. We're going to actually stay in the year of 1994. Way to go, Butler. Way to pick. We're going to be
last
doing.
kids movie on our list.
This is not fully animated, right? It's animated and live
It's
action.
bookended with live action.
Okay, we're doing is it the Page Master or Page
I
Master?
think it's just Page Master.
Page Master. I'm really not looking forward to this, but we're doing Page Master next week.
Have you never seen it? I mean, you were probably too old.
Here's
for
the
it.
thing. I saw
You're certainly too
I
old for
saw some of it, and I probably was like, no, pass. Like, because I'd probably turned it off.
You might appreciate it more now, having had kids.
Well,
I don't know.
crap is crap. I'm not saying it's crap, but I do not. I remember him changing. I remember the wizard thing, right? I remember the book.
I remember
I
remember the book Friends he had, but I don't remember most of this. I don't remember what the plot is.
He becomes
gets
animated in a library, right?
He gets a magic book in the library.
I
and then
remember
his
that.
Friends are books based on famous books,
Oh, really? What? Oh, okay.
and he gets sucked into all these classic stories.
All right. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's next week. We're doing Page Masters. So I got nothing else. You got anything else to add?
No,
All right. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema.
You got my snowblower?